Lady, shall I lie in your lap?
No, my lord.
I mean my head upon you.
It's all interiors now. The days flow into one another with increasing intensity. I've had a bed installed in my dressing room, and I've taken to sleeping there during the week sometimes.
Oh, aye?
Aye, my lord.
The weekends are a blessed relief to get back to some kind of normal life.
Well, look you how cheerfully my mother looks.
If your personal life is unhappy, and whose isn't from time to time, that can help you do good work too. I mean, because you're trying to get away from that so hard that you throw yourself so completely into the work to distract yourself from the pain or whatever it is that is happening. That works too, but it's nice to have things like calm and settled. There's enough pain here.
You go not till I set you up a glass where you may see the inmost part of you.
Why would that do now? No, let me help!
Hello, rat! Dead!
No pain, I hasten to point out, in working with Glenn. Say what's in the script. There's somebody eavesdropping in Gertrude's bedroom whose eavesdropping days have come rapidly to an end. Who says Hamlet's not a man of action?
Basically okay when we got up to here?
I shoved you up in the
Before,
bed.
yeah. What would that do?
That will not.
What would that do? That will not murder me? Help! Help!
I think she's always been considered a very problematic part because she's so underwritten. She's the only major Shakespearean character that has 76 lines. So as whatever actor takes on Gertrude has to supply a lot of their own story to fill out, to make it real and, you know, consistent. And that's fascinating. That's what I like to do.
Initially, we sort of got together. It was like breaking the ice with someone. We went over, had a cup of tea, had some polite conversation, then proceeded to scream at each other, rant around, and...
Pages were flying all over the room. We really got into it, and it was really great because we saw the possibilities. I think we felt the possibilities, and it was reassuring, I think.
This was your husband. Look you now what follows.
The closet scene is one of the biggies. It's where Hamlet finally levels with his mother. How can she betray his dead father by marrying the brother who poisoned him?
It's humble and waits upon the judgment. And what judgment would step from this to this? What devil was that thus hath cozened you, and hoodman blind, eyes without feeling, feeling without sight? Oh, shame, where is thy blush?
Oh, speak no more. Speak no more.
There's a certain kind of a trust, because actors basically are asked all the time to make fools of themselves, and it takes a great deal of courage, actually, and that's why rehearsals can be a very private moment, because you are exploring, you are having to open yourself up and to trust somebody and to risk making a fool of yourself.
Okay. He's so pissed off.
Why don't you... Yeah. Why did you...
Get more tender there. This and that, and she comforts you, and then you find a moment in the text.
Franco adores these hot-blooded scenes. I think he'd really like me to go ape.
The rank sweat of an unseemly bed, skewed and corrupted, making love over the nasty...
There again, Hamlet was Danish, not Italian. I guess they're more repressed up there.
You know,
Yes.
he smells it.
Frank is very visual. He's wonderfully Italian. He's very emotional. He'll act out a scene for you, but it's like a silent movie almost. But he, I think, is maybe not used to talking to actors as much as another director might be, because he's worked with a lot of opera stars, and I think you just kind of tell them where to stand.
A king of shreds and patches! Save me and hover over me with your wings wherever you are.
I don't know where he is. He's there. How do I know he's there? Do I feel him?
This is pretty intense stuff. I mean, I'd like weeks to work on this, but if you're in the middle of a shoot and the money clock is running at more than $100,000 a day, the pressure is on you to just get out there and shoot it. Sometimes I feel like shooting myself.
Why does the ghost appear?
Because, well, actually, the idea was that he comes to warn him, not to harm her.
They feel maybe that he hasn't worked it out enough beforehand. I don't think it's, myself, entirely fair.
Once you are secure as a performer, or you understand your part, or have an instinctive understanding of it, to be not over-directed is in fact a huge advantage. Your own instinctive response to the part is bound to be a more immediate and real thing than something that's imposed upon you.
Oh, save me, hover only with your wings, you heavenly gods. Look how it steals away my father and his Hamlet as he lives.
This is the very coinage of your brain.
The following day, we can see our work and our mistakes. You sometimes hear actors say, "Oh, I never go to rushes," as if their performance no longer belonged to them once it was recorded on film. Well, on this film, that would be madness, madder than Hamlet, if indeed he is mad. To me, an essential part of the creative process is to look at the various takes of each scene and discuss with Franco and Glenn what works and what doesn't.
Why was there no
She thinks so, too.
Of when he's beating me up? Because you're doing it all on the tight,
Yeah, no,
like...
me. You see, bodies is him.
And then the scene that you just saw where it's... I don't know if this is on film.
You son of a... You didn't cover that. Let's have it all on film.
It seemed like when, you know, in the shots where I was saying, I don't see anything, and it's all... That my face was a lot in shadow most of the time.
No. The beginning today you haven't seen. The first hour.
No.
The first half hour.
Yeah,
It's all of that.
Okay.
When I was at drama school, there was a guy, head of acting department, went around and asked all of us one by one why we wanted to be an actor. Why did you want to do that? And there were answers everywhere. And it got to me and I was flipping out because I thought, why? God, I don't know. I really don't know why I want to do this. And he said, he put the words in my mouth. He said, well, do you enjoy it? And I said, oh, yeah, I really. He said, that's good, great, that's enough, that's enough.
I never had the idea that I should push them into anything, or that they should... there's too much of that, I think. Everybody aiming for something when they're 4 or 5 years of age and they start off, they've got to be this or they've got to be that. And it puts people in a straitjacket.
If the person is kind of well-adjusted and from a well-adjusted background, I don't know, there's some kind of divine thing that shoves them in the right direction. They'll end up somewhere that they should be.
Would you encourage the children to be actors?
I won't encourage them to be actors, no.
Discourage them?
I wouldn't discourage them either. One of them said to me, he was 5, he said he wanted to be an actor. And I didn't say, oh, that's good. But I didn't say, no, don't do that. I didn't know what to do, so I thought I'd play the safe ground and ask him a question. I said, why? And a bit unfair, he's only 5 years old. Why do you want to be an actor? And he said, he looked at me and quite earnestly said, so I can take your place when you die. Best laugh I had that day. When you die. On the bottom line, that's what Hamlet is all about. If a peaceful hereafter is life's purpose, why wrestle with an unpeaceful present?
That will be from his point of view.
We're shooting the most famous soliloquy ever written, Where It Belongs, down among the dead men.
I'm tired of death.
To die is aimed directly at those rotting skeletons.
Right.
And hopefully they'll have a point of view of that. And then to sleep is aimed in another direction at a stone man with his hands folded together.
Yeah.
Sleeping.
Looking as in sleep. But in fact, it's a representation of death.
Yes.
Seems fair to me.
And then the way that we're going to cut it or break it up is we're going to break it up to there's the rub.
Mm-hmm.
Go down to the tomb
Yeah.
of his father and talk to it.
Right.
Well, about the mortal coil and stuff.
Yeah.
There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life sinking to the floor, sitting there. And then actually laying himself out on the floor with his sword on his chest.
Right.
Trying to think what it'd be like to croak.
He should merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietus make with the bare body.
the thing is to give it some kind of, I don't know, a freshness. And that's hard to do because usually with a speech that well known, it's hard to surprise or to tell an audience of people who are already half a line in front of you mouthing the words that it's very familiar to a lot of people.
That apply to others that we know not of. When you come down to it, it's an extremely clear and essential speech. It doesn't need to be, it's a question that each one of us posed to himself or herself that night before, after you say your prayer, if you say your prayer or not, when you switch off your light and say, what the hell am I doing here?
It's a speech about a catch-22. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Or you can't have your cake and choke on it. Something. But what was your question? How do I feel? I feel all right. Yeah. It's no different than anything else. I feel like this every day. Terrified. To die. To sleep. No more. Somehow being in the midst of this image of a death helps to bring the speech to life. And by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. To die. To sleep. To sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. To suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. It's hard to be objective at this stage. Very often, the first take is the one I go for. The trouble is, you could always have done a better one.
357, take 12.
You stop trusting yourself if you're not very careful, round about take 4 of each one. And it gets, I think, more and more distressing. To the point where I have watched Mel begin to stop believing in himself after about 4 or 5. Because it's a soliloquy anyway, you're in a vacuum. It's less awful if you've got somebody else to bounce off because you know when you've created something with that other person. But it's absolutely terrible when you're just doing it for you.
It's against a sea of troubles. Unusable from there. Unusable from there because it's... To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the sling. Not usable at all. Disappointing to my, I'm disappointed.
Why?
Well, I feel like it kicked my a little bit because sometimes I think Shakespeare should stay on the stage, because there's so many hitches that you can encounter with film. And it sounds like a poor workman blaming his tools, but I mean, honestly, it's kind of frustrating.
What you're talking about is getting it up to 2.8.
David Watkin, the award-winning lighting cameraman, has a different bag of problems.
4 times the amount of light.
One of the things is, say, the light level in the scene. And it looks beautiful. The man has done beautiful work. But when you're down to 1.4, with the film stock they're using and a big lens, you have no depth of focus. So that most of what you do ends up on the floor because it's unusable, because it's blurry.
There's no fun in working at low light levels. It gives the camera assistant a very difficult time. You have problems trying with the focus and all sorts of things. But if it's the only way you can get that kind of lighting, then you have to do it. If you've got a scene which is lit by candles, there's not much point in having the candle the least bright thing in the shot.
You just want to go in and scream and roar and yell. But as soon as you do that, well, then you lose something else that's important, and that's the ensemble thing is trying to work and compromise,